All right, well, I want to thank everybody for coming today. This will be our last large group meeting for the Mothers Club. And Amanda's here. I'm glad you're here. I want to start by introducing Mark Tipps today, who I heard speak at the NBA board meeting. He has been leading a safety committee for the school that recently started. And I just found it of great interest, and I thought you would as well. And I just want to give a brief background of Mark. We're very fortunate to have him at NBA as our Director of Athletics. He has a very distinguished legal career with stints at both Bassbury and Sims and Walker, Tipps, and Malone. He's worked for 2 different senators, Chief of Staff to Bill Frist and Deputy Counsel to Fred Thompson. I thought it was interesting, his college history. He played varsity football at Gustavus Adolphus College, graduating with honors, and also graduated from honors at UT Law School. He has 2 daughters, and then he has a son, John, who graduated with my son, Richard. They were friends all through Oak Hill School and then on to MBA. And he actually plays baseball now at Middlebury School, and that's one of the things that Mark is really passionate about, is helping boys find their place in college athletics and really be able to maybe go to a really fine school by participating in the athletic program. So I highly recommend him to you if you have a son interested in that. He's helped my husband gift too, just talking about colleges in general. He has a great working knowledge. And I'm excited that he's going to open our program and then Jenny's going to close it, because they are both just a wealth of knowledge, and we're very privileged to have both of them at our school. So I'm going to let him come on up now, and you may ask a few questions after he talks with us.
Good morning. As she said, I'm Mark Tipps. Before I start in today, I may move this.
Mark, and you know what? I'm going to need you to do the microphone because we're taping it.
Oh, okay. I'm not very good at microphones.
Me neither.
Before I start, I want to introduce somebody that works with me in the athletics department. Many of you know, but not all of you do. Amanda Dreyer, if you'll stand up. And Amanda is the athletics manager. She's a recent graduate of Samford University and has been a tremendous addition to the athletics department. She's always a first good stop for you if you have a question or you need something. She probably knows the answer better than I do. She frequently has to tell me where to be and what to do, sometimes where to go, things like that. But we're really fortunate to have her, and I just wanted you guys to put a name with a face, and feel free to contact her anytime that you have any kind of questions or any needs in the athletic department. What I was asked to talk to you about this morning, I'm happy to do so. It stems from the issues that showed up in the newspaper about Brentwood Academy at the beginning of the year. When that happened, as Anna said, I spent 30 years as a trial lawyer, and so my immediate reaction to that was that could happen at any place, at any school, and it'd be very, very difficult to prevent boys from being somewhere by themselves long enough to injure each other. But I talked to Brad and said, I think we need to take a look at what our current written policies and procedures are as they relate to things like inappropriate sexual behavior, harassment, bullying, that sort of thing. He agreed. He said, would you take a look at it? I said I would. I did. I determined that our policies and procedures were probably lacking, as most schools at this point. And so we formed a committee that was made up of parents and teachers, some administrators, and a board member, and we met 4 or 5 times, and the committee came up with a handful of recommendations. And they don't run the gamut of everything that we need to do in this school, but I think they bring us to a place where we're acting reasonably and doing the things that need to be done for now. And these are the recommendations that the committee made. The first thing we did was we sort of revamped our current sexual harassment policy. That really doesn't apply as much to the boys as it does to faculty and staff, but we added some definitions and sort of brought that thing into the 21st century. As it relates to the boys, though, there were some other recommendations. One was to clarify a policy about sexual relations between faculty and students. Obviously, there was a policy that prohibited that, and what we did was took that policy and extended that to be consistent with Harpeth Hall. So now that policy reads that it is inappropriate to have any sexual or romantic relationship between a faculty member and a student, or a faculty member and any former student who is under the age of 21 years old. And that's the same policy Harpeth Hall has. So we made that change. I think that should be fairly obvious to you why we did that. There are practices that you can read about called grooming, where people begin to keep their hands off while someone's a student, but they begin to set in motion a relationship, and as soon as the person's graduated, they try to make a move there, and that's as inappropriate as if the student was attending the school. The second thing relating to students that we did was we put in the handbook, the actual employee handbook, the current state mandatory reporting requirements. And if you don't know, there is a mandatory reporting requirement in Tennessee that essentially says this: if you work at a school and you have reason to believe that a student has been sexually abused, you must report that to the state authorities. Failing to do so is a crime. And so we've put that in the employee handbook. We've made it very clear to our faculty. If any of them think something like that's happened, there is a committee of people, you may have to help me, Amanda, made up of me, Brad, Fran, Will Norton, and maybe Jamie Tillman, and Caroline Scholler, our head of counseling. So those folks were to come to us. If they believe that's something that has to be reported, we will report it. And I've told them, if we don't report it and you think it's something that falls under the mandatory requirements, you report it. So we're going to comply with that statute. That was an issue in the BA case, and if it gets reinstated, it will be an issue in the BA case. The most substantive change is one that is now in your kids' student handbook. When I went through the student handbook, there was one reference in a miscellaneous section that said, don't bully, don't harass, and don't engage in sexual misconduct. It was in the same section that said, don't take other people's backpacks. So we now have an entire section, which I will not read to you, but it is 2 pages, that is entitled MBA's Anti-Bullying, Harassment, and Sexual Misconduct Policy. It defines bullying, it defines harassment, it defines sexual misconduct. It makes it very clear that if you want a one-way ticket out of this school, just engage in some of that behavior, and it's going to be taken very seriously. It talks about what type of investigation will be conducted, who will do it, and what will happen. And so I think both for the protection of the boys and for the protection of the school, no one can say that they're not on notice about the school's stance on those issues now. And that's the strongest thing that we did, and it's the thing that I think was missing the most. The last thing we did was take a look at while we were meeting, people would come up to me and tell me some things. And one of the things I kept hearing was that our kids tend to wander around the campus unsupervised a lot at night, which is a concern. And so I looked into this with the committee, and what we found is frequently when the boys finish with athletics, 95% of them are picked up on time. If I ask you all when you pick up your kids, if they play a sport, you probably would tell me, most of you would tell me before 6:30, right? Right? Well, we have some who aren't. And so what happens is those boys are sitting out by the tower on the steps or just inside the tower. And when I was a parent, I sometimes got called into meetings. Somebody grabbed me off the elevator, come back in, he'd talk to you. And I would come pick John up, and it might be 7 o'clock. And he'd be sitting out there. I probably assumed that there were coaches inside the gym. There weren't, 9 times out of 10. I mean, coaches have lives too. They go home to eat dinner. So we had boys that were sitting out there and no one's inside, and they're 80 feet from a public road. That's a problem, I think. We had boys going to the Massey building and getting picked up there, sometimes 7:30, 8 o'clock even, and they were in there by themselves. That's a potential problem. So what we did, and it's not going to cure everything, but what we've done is we basically said, if you're engaged in something like intramurals, and Ms. Dreyer, for example, coaches intramurals. If you're involved in intramurals and you're supposed to be done at 4:45, if you haven't been picked up by 5:30, you need to go to the Massey building. If you're in a sport and you haven't been picked up by 6:30, you need to go to the Massey building. I have a coach now every night on duty. At 6:30, they will go through the gym, kind of squeegee the whole place out of kids, shove them over to the Massey building, and at the Massey building from 5:30 to 7, we have a security guard. Now, after 7, we don't, but that's on you. That's on us as parents. Parents have been told, you don't pick them up by 7, they're unsupervised. We still have a guard on this campus, but they're in that building and there's nobody directly supervising. But at least parents aren't operating under the impression that their children are being supervised all the time. So that's what we did on that particular policy. That committee, Ann and I have talked, that committee may get reinstituted, and we may enlarge it, and we may look at some broader issues in light of things that are happening across the country in terms of violence on a campus. But that's basically what we did as a first effort to make things a little better here in terms of our policies and our practices. We also, I should say, the other thing we did is the committee recommended that we have training for our faculty on sexual abuse, how to spot it, how to prevent it, what to do if a child comes to you. If a kid comes to you and says, this has happened to me, what do you do? Well, in my nature as a trial lawyer would be to probably start cross-examining them to find out as much information. That's exactly what you're not supposed to do. So it was good training for me to hear, don't do that. Just sit and listen and be reassuring. So we will have annual training for the faculty on those types of issues, and we started that in January. Did I leave anything out, or do you think that's pretty much it? I think that's pretty much it. So if you all have questions about any of that, any of those policies, anything that's concerning you that's related to that, I'd be more than happy to answer your question. Yes? Yes. She and I used to be law partners, so I knew she'd ask me a question.
When policy was first implemented, there's a man as Brady was doing soccer, and they were letting out like at 5:45. He was going to make me move over to Massey and pick him up. That doesn't make sense to me. You're not doing that. He wasn't sure what was going to happen.
Yeah, I've told Giles and the soccer folks that, was your son playing soccer? Yeah, what I've told individual coaches, for example, junior school, they're over at 42nd. I've told them work with the parents, and so long as there's a place where a parent's going to pick somebody up and you the coach know about it, and you're going to stay till the last kid's picked up, that's fine. That's fine. So the policy's meant to have lots of flexibility to it because there are kids doing things like debate and other activities, and I've told those kinds of people, look, meet with parents. If a parent says to you, I know my kid's practicing for an upcoming debate tournament and you have my permission to leave him there by himself with 3 other boys working on debate, that's fine. We have the parents telling us that's okay. That's okay. What's not okay, I think, is just to not have any plan and just be willy-nilly about where kids are and what they're doing. But yeah, on something like that, anything that comes up that seems it's like any new policy, you got to kind of let the water settle in the canyon a little bit. But something like that pops up, just call me, and we'll see if we can't figure out a better way for it to work. But I've talked to the soccer people and said, rather than come all the way back across campus, I'm happy with you all just to get picked up over there, but you need to stay there with them. Don't just leave them sitting there and say, your parents are going to pick you up, because then we're in the same boat. We got, Wilson Avenue, and somebody pulls off Wilson Avenue, and we got 5 boys unsupervised. That's a problem. All right. Somebody else had a question. Yes.
I applaud these efforts, and I am curious if you said that you were exploring possibly relooking at the security policies. Do you think the current procedures worked? The other day when the man with the mental health issues got into the library?
Yeah, I don't know the short answer. I don't know whether they work or not. We had a director's meeting this past week, and that's what we talked about. And I think we are, like a lot of people right now, we're kind of drinking from a fire hose a little bit in terms of information and what's appropriate and what's not and what you should do. I mean, we've had discussions, should you wall off the entire school and have 2 guarded entry points? I mean, that's one extreme. And Jenny can tell you, we had that debate the other day. Should we have armed guards? Should we have 1 armed guard? Should we have 10 armed guards? Should we arm our faculty members? Should we do nothing because it changes the culture of the school except be more alert to danger signs? That's what we're looking at, and we're just struggling with it right now and trying to figure out where the sweet spot is for the school, for this school. I'm happy, by the way, if any of you ever have thoughts on that or want to share your thoughts with somebody, please email me, call me. I'd be happy to talk to you about it. So it's just one of those tough things. I mean, the world has changed since when any of us were in school. Yep.
I was aware that it's sure that's what happened.
We had a fella who showed up at the library and wanted to check out some books. And he was escorted off campus. And when he was escorted off campus, he apparently had some pictures in the back seat of his van of some partially clothed boys. And it was reported to the police, and it turns out it's somebody they're very familiar with and has done that kind of thing before. And we have pictures of him, and he's very easy to recognize. He has bleached blonde hair. And so that's what happened, and it was handled fine, and it's probably not the first time that's happened. And we have an open campus, so there's a bus stop right in front of the entrance to this school. So it will not be hard for somebody to be on this campus if they want to. We just have to be alert to it. Yeah, why don't you tell them about the new lanyards? I didn't pay close attention to the new lanyards.
One of the things that they have tried to do in the interim, because I think we are talking about this, and this is not an easy fix and a quick solution, but they have gotten some fluorescent lanyards that any visitor on campus has to have. They also worked with SFM, which is our maintenance company, to say that if they have anybody that's working on campus, they have to have that lanyard and they have to go through a policy. So that I think, unfortunately, for better or worse, we're a friendly campus and we tend to say, hi, good to see you, and assume that people belong on our campus, as opposed to saying, oh, you are not one of us and you don't belong. So having a lanyard is a way for at least to have some mechanism so that if you see somebody who doesn't look familiar, they don't have a lanyard on, they actually now have, we have a walkie-talkie in our office so that if we see something unusual, that we can call directly to our maintenance office and then somebody would respond. And somebody always, those guys all are on those walkie-talkie systems. So we're trying to put some immediate or some things in place right now in order to make certain that we're doing the best we can, but I think it's a long-term solution.
So if we see somebody on campus that doesn't have that fluorescent lanyard, now we're supposed to stop them and ask them a question. We also, by the way, we do regularly have drills. We have, we have shooter drills. Assuming somebody's on campus, we have a shutdown drill that we do with the boys, and we do that at least once a semester. So, we have had policies in place, and we're just trying to, like every other school, figure out what's best. Several more questions. All right.
Can you talk a little bit more about the active shooter? You mentioned that policy. I asked my son, and he looks like a blankly, so it's not doing anything.
Well, he's being told what to do by by his teacher. But basically, we shut, you know, if there's an active shooter thing, if I'm teaching second period, my American government class, I'll lock that door, shut it down, get the kids away from the windows and away from the door. They get down, I get down, and you basically hold forth there. And the whole campus does that. And then we have somebody who goes around and looks to make sure we're doing that properly, and that's about the best you can do, is to first hide and protect yourself. The last thing that we want to do is to return the fight, since we don't have any guns.
Is there an armed guard?
There is not.
Shouldn't there?
That's the, you can answer that one for me, you get the big bucks. I mean, that's what in all seriousness, that's what we're debating, and there are people on both sides of that. I mean, if Brad were here, I think he would tell you, it's one of those things that there are great arguments on both sides to it. And if we open this up for debate, fully half of you would say, yeah, you should, and here's why, and the other half would say, that's a terrible idea. And so we're struggling with that.
So anybody that comes, say, to the Big Red Store needs to have one of those lanyards on? They have to, parents have to come?
I don't know that it's parents. I think these are contractors that have to have that. I think if it's a parent, I don't think we're putting those on parents at this point.
I think if somebody's doing a big red store, they don't have to have it on.
Okay.
I think that's one of those things that probably will failing over time. But if you are coming to meet with somebody on campus, then I think the normal procedure is that normally we ask that you go and sign in at the office anyway. And so we probably have been very lax about that policy. Or not probably, I think we definitely have been very lax about that policy. But the policy is that any visitor should check in at either one of the campus offices, so either the middle school office or the main office. So that is something that we would like everybody to do, so that we have that policy and so that we have everybody going through and then you can get that lanyard and look official. We're probably not as worried about you, but the reality is we've had people in the past who posed as parents and stole people's purses. So, the reality is we want to be thoughtful about that.
And
Yeah, I was just going to echo that, and that every single visitor that comes on campus has that neon green lanyard attached to every single tag. So it's not just contractors, it's moms, it's dads, it's everybody.
But have you
It's
told-
David Ingram if he comes
have
on
we told
campus.
parents?
So,
They don't know that yet.
it'll start coming in.
Hang on.
So, my person is kind of the practical application. I mean, I've been here, 12 years. Back before we even had cards, like a lot of us. I'm on these things all the time, as a lot of moms are volunteering.
Yeah.
I came once, a week or two ago, and I wanted to go to the assembly, which I've only done once in my entire time here. And I went and checked out a lanyard, and I'm like, that's unusual. I don't usually do that. I'm going to check in. But I was at Chris Sanders' talk last week, and I definitely didn't stop and get a lanyard, just like this morning,
Well-
to come to a meeting. So when do we know?
Yeah, we just, that policy, if you will, probably didn't even get hatched until the last 3 or 4 days. So it's a brand new thing and it's evolving.
It could be cumbersome for published meetings or
Right.
Red Store, and that's something we probably need to talk about, but it won't solve
Right.
today. But they're good distinctions to make and to
Yeah.
clarify.
That's why we have the doors unlocked for those specific gatherings of larger groups of people. And that's why we also don't like the Mothers Club meetings to be in Virginia room for extended periods of time, because the dining hall is such a big bank of doors to leave open. So that's why we try to put as many Mothers Club meetings into Gibbs and just leave that courtyard door open for you all, because that's a little less visible. So.
One last question.
Okay,
I just have a comment. I was aware of the situation, because I work at a school in the church, and y'all send information about it all to us. And I saw a picture of the gentleman, and I showed it to my boys here. And I said, if you see this guy on campus, you let somebody know. My oldest son, just FYI, said, Mom, if a man needs, a visitor, because he said, parents don't necessarily have anything that let us know that they are visiting campus. He said, if somebody acts like they're supposed to be going into the library, most boys here will open the door and say, go on in. I know he looks a little strange, but he certainly, I guess, could have been a parent. So just that's why that's one thing I know my boys both said, is if an adult is standing somewhere and says, I need a disability, they're going to let them in. So if they can be communicated that they have the power, and parents can be communicated students are going to say, if you don't have this, I'm so sorry, but just for our safety, you need to go to the office and check your receipt, because they're being polite, they're letting, straight.
They are, and to make that worse, the ones who are probably the most polite are the 7th and 8th grade. Anyway, I do want you all to know that we are looking at all this actively, debating it, talking about it, thinking about it, trying to figure out, again, between making it, effectively a prison situation versus just completely open, what's the right thing to do. Love your thoughts and input, and we'll continue to do that until we evolve. And I'll talk to you as I leave it, if you'd like.
It's very reassuring to all of us that you guys are meeting, and we appreciate your intentionality. Thank you so much. All right, on to our meeting. I'm going to go through a few things. I wanted to give a report to you guys on our fall allocations. In combination with the Fathers Club, we were able to give over $100,000 back to the school, and we made up $80,000 of that. We gave equipment for 12 different sports: baseball, fitness, football, golf, hockey, lacrosse, riflery, rowing, soccer, swimming, track, and tennis. We also were able to give classroom materials for many, many subjects, including science, English, the fine arts, foreign language, history, and math. We continued our school subscription to ePrep testing, which is a very helpful tool for your boys. I have to keep reminding them about that for ACT, SAT, and PSAT. Equipment for many of the school clubs: mock trial, debate, guitar, bike, and the list goes on. We were able to purchase a large lift this year for maintenance to be able to use to reach the really high places. We also were able to buy some vases for development, which hopefully we'll be able to share with them. And we did improvements at Long Mountain. And I also wanted to mention that in the spring last year, at the end of Laura's year, we did $25,000 to help with the Airnasium at Long Mountain. So the Mothers Club is giving back, and I really appreciate you guys and all the work you've done this year, each and every volunteer. And as we're finishing out a year, there's a few things that I've been thinking about just to finish strong. And one of them is we will have one more publication of our sports program, our spring sports program. So particularly if you know of anyone that has a son that plays any spring sports, all of those will be highlighted that might be willing to put in one ad. They're not too expensive just for that one publication. If you have a business or a family member or a friend, it would really be a big help, and we need to do this in the next couple of weeks. And you can contact Julia Wilk, and she can follow up with all the detail, but that I would personally really appreciate any help with that. We also, and I'm going to move the slide here, Laura Green we're still working on shopping partners to finish out the year. Come tell them we've got a really unique opportunity with Amazon Smile. But of course, remember your Kroger card, make sure you have one and that it's linked to MBA. You can continue to buy Sperry's gift cards throughout the year, and we make a lot on those. Sign up at Publix, and then our City Saver books you can buy, but come tell them about Amazon Smile.
Oh, okay. Just City Saver books, $25. 50% comes back to MBA. Christy's got books if you want to buy some, and these are the 2018. I got an email saying that on Amazon Smile, I think it's starting the week of March 12th, that if you sign up for the first time and you make a purchase, they will triple the amount of the proceeds to MBA, but it's a small percent. It's like 1.5%, but hey, every little bit helps. So look out for that email, and again, I think it's March 12th. It's somewhere around the week of spring break. Yeah. And again, if you haven't linked your Kroger card, please do so, because Kroger is a real big way that we earn some money, so that would really help. Does anybody have any questions on shopping partners? No? Okay, thank you for... Yes, if not, you can email me or call me, and I'll be happy to help you with that. But thank you for all that you do, because it's such an easy way to earn money for MBA. So thank you.
Heather, that's a good question. If you go to the Mothers Club website, there you can navigate down and find this information so it's on the MBA website. There's a link that says Parents. You can select either Mothers Club or Fathers Club, and there's lots of good information there. In fact, we're going to post on that today. This meeting, I had a teacher from Harpeth Hall ask me if we would record this meeting or there be information. We've always had the minutes, or you can find there, but we're going to also have a recording. Barry is so nice to come and help us today, and we really appreciate it. Two other fun things that are for sale today after the meeting. We've got this wonderful photo of the Ball Building, and I'm going to hold it up. They're only $25, and Janetta Fleming did the original. And these are copies. It would be a wonderful graduation present or birthday present. We've had even people buy them for alums to give them for birthday presents. So they're up here. We also have ornaments for sale, just a few left, MBA ornaments, and those are $35. So the ornaments are $35 and the prints are $25. I also want to mention, and I sent this in a letter, but we gave a gift to the Stephanie Ballmer Fund of $250 from the Mothers Club. And I delivered notes and flowers to Ann Meredick, who is the president of their Parents Association, and also Emily Tidwell, who is chair of their board, and just wrote notes from the Mothers Club, just expressing our love for them and support, and Anne very much appreciated it and mentioned it in her letter to their parents. They had received notes from all the schools, but that we had wanted to get out early and show them our support with our donation. And I believe that the school will follow up with a larger donation to the fund. So we continue to think about our sister school and walk alongside them. Barbara Keith Payne is going to come up now, and this has been a really successful program this year, and I want her to share with you, there she is, and if you don't mind coming up to the microphone, and we have to keep it this direction for the sound to work, but she's going to talk to you about some co-curricular activities in the middle school that have been very successful.
Hi, I'm Barbara Keith Payne. I currently serve as the class mother coordinator, which is the easiest job in the world because the class mothers are completely autonomous and do more than anybody can ask them to do. But this year, I am also very involved at the middle school at Harpeth Hall because I have a 7th grader there. And there had been some feedback that the mixers, this is so weird, this screen is right here. The mixers were maybe not as well received by the children as they were with the work put in by the mothers. So, which is not an unusual situation with 7th and 8th grade boys and girls, but we kind of took it upon ourselves to rethink it, and I have to say the schools have been incredibly supportive of this, and co-curricular activities for 7th and 8th graders are very important, and when you come to apply to a gender-specific school, one of your first questions, I'm sure, is, will they know any girls? And, you know, the answer is yes. And so we try to have co-curricular activities both in academics, socially through mixers, and through service. And so this year what we did is we cut back on the social mixers, which we were each school was hosting one per semester. So there were 4 a year in 7th and 8th grade. So we cut back to 2 social mixers, and the 7th grade moms did one in the, I gotta get this right. They just did one in Massey in February, and then the 7th grade moms at Harpeth Hall did one in the fall, the carnival. And in the fall, the 8th grade class moms here were tasked with sort of inventing a new mixer, which they did a fabulous job at inventing this scavenger hunt. And I have to thank Chastity Phillips, who really ran that show and came up with an amazing idea and framework for a new mixer for the future. So that was a real success. And then the 8th grade moms at Harpeth Hall do a glow mixer in the spring anyway, or just did in February, and that was a success. So we have these 4 mixers, but then also our service office, Annie B. Williams specifically, has really worked with the Harpeth Hall service office to put together some service opportunities for 7th and 8th graders and to do together. And that is a really big task considering the size of those classes. I mean, you're talking about 250 kids, you know, descending on somewhere in Nashville to be helpful, and they're also 13 years old. So you can imagine the task of that. But they came up with some great things, and this is kind of a work in progress, but the Race for the Cure was attended by both 7th and 8th graders from both schools, which I think was a big hit for the ones who went. And then also in January, they did a drive. There was a winter weather clothes drive, and they did a sorting exercise at Harpeth Hall, which my 7th grader went to, and she said that was pretty fun. So that's, you know, that's high praise. So I just, as we close out this year and we start to train the new class mothers, I would love to hear from any 7th and 8th grade moms. You can call me or email me or text me, whatever, with your feedback about what you think has and hasn't worked this year for your child. And we always take all feedback from these children with a grain of salt because it's mixed. And so but it is, has been an amazing year with these 7th and 8th grade moms. And being a class mother is a big, important job. And I just want to thank them publicly, the 7th and 8th grade ones especially, because being new to MBA and being a class mother, 2 out of our 4 7th grade moms are new to the school, and to be like, okay, now you have to organize 5 events. Good luck. It is a challenge, and I really want to say thank you to them because they have made my job really easy. And more to come on this co-curricular question, but I would love to hear any feedback any of you have on that. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So we're going to have reports from each grade level now, and I know that many of you are here. And who is here from the 7th grade? Oh, Natalie. Sorry, thanks. Natalie Carr.
Very well attended. We almost had 135, 140 kids on a Saturday night. And it was a lot of fun. And we have planned for the 7th grade adult outing at the end of the year on April 5th. We're going to have, we rented out a restaurant. We're going to have some live music and a buffet and just a great little parent party on Thursday, April 5th. And that's going to kind of be our end of the year wrap up for the 7th grade adults and lovely day.
It's Natalie. Chastity is here from the 8th. Chastity Phillips, the amazing.
So I have to speak for all 8th grade moms that we have thoroughly enjoyed this year getting to know all the boys. Also getting to take 80 phones from kids out of social. That was kind of fun. So, like Barbara Keith said, we had a scavenger hunt in the fall that we think went really well. If nothing else, they ate Chick-fil-A, so, you know, we won with that one. And then we did the snacks for exams. And just so you know, Natalie had a great idea of doing pizza and churros from Costco. It was very inexpensive, and the kids loved it. So just food for thought for going forward. But then we also did a parent social back in January, and we used the dining hall. We turned on the fire. We kind of made it intimate. And it was just a really great evening. So if any of you guys haven't thought about using that as a place to have your parent social on, that's kind of fun. And then we actually just had a Harpeth Hall glow mixer where we started out with 30 kids, and by the time we ended up, we had over 70 boys attend. So in 4 days, that changed. So, and then next up, we're doing the Indata. We're doing an Indata, kind of what Barbara Keith was talking about, where we're going to ask all the kids to bring art supplies for the Martha O'Brien Center. So it's a way for them to get involved in the community and feel like they're giving back, but then also supporting one of the school functions. So that's our year. We had a great time.
For 9th grade, I think Elizabeth Williams and Hunter Slide.
Well, we had a busy fall. We had the homecoming after party, which was a big success. And then we also had our parent mixer at the very beginning of the school. The boys got back from Chloe, which we will highly recommend doing a mixer after that with a great attendance. I think we're thinking about doing a mom's coffee this spring, and then we might want to do big for snacks for fall exams. The
Great, thank you. The awesome sophomore class, Tracy Crawford.
The 10th grade class had a happy hour at the greenhouse in January for our parents. It was well attended. Last week we hosted Chris Sanders here, and Anna had the great idea to open that up to everybody. And also, that was, I think, well attended in here. Looking forward, we may have a coffee for moms at the picnic in April, and we'll certainly have exam snacks in May.
Sophomore,
The junior class had a mom's coffee last month. Paul Murphy was kind enough to host. It was great. And then this Sunday we have our mixer from 5 to 7 at Winners for the parents. So if you haven't already RSVP'd to do so.
do you have any senior moms here? Sorry, they're on the slide.
Here, that I don't have a report from any of my class moms, but I do want to thank the class moms, and they do a lot, and I would encourage you going forward, if you haven't been a class mother, to next year self-nominate for yourself, because it's really a great year of camaraderie. Thanks, you guys. Oh yeah, the seniors had a parent mixer.
Thank you, Barbara Keith. Spaghetti supper chairs for next year. Manju Kandula and Amy Brown are going to come up and talk to us for a minute. I'm going to get their slide up here. And you just push that button.
Okay. Hi, and for those of you who don't know us, I'm Manju Kandula, and this is Amy Brown, and we're excited about the spaghetti supper, and we wanted to let you know the dates. This year, it's a month earlier than it had been in the past couple of years. It's Friday, September the 28th, and the dinner is from 5 to 7, but carry out from 3 to 5. And then the second harvest food drive is about the week before. It's September 18th to the 21st. And the bake sale is from the Wednesday, the 26th to the 28th. And for those of you who have volunteered to be committee chair, we're having our spaghetti supper kickoff. That's on Thursday, April 19th in the morning, 8 o'clock to 9:30. And then we have a fall meeting set up for Thursday, August 30th, which is the second week of school.
And we still need some more committee chairs. So if you want to volunteer, we'd love to have you. And Manju and I will be up here at the end. So if you want to volunteer, please come up. And we especially need 8th grade moms who want to be 9th grade hosts. And so your job would mainly be on spaghetti supper nights to oversee the boys, the 9th grade boys that are bussing tables and such.
Yeah, I think also there's going to be a sign-up genius that comes later on in the spring, where if you can't be a committee chair, you can volunteer to help on the different committees.
Thank you guys for getting things started so well. And like they said, please, if you want to be involved with Spaghetti Supper, do come up and talk with them after the meeting. You saw Blazers and More is up and running, and when you leave today, browse and shop. And if you want to bring anything for take-in at the April sale before the mother-son breakfast, which was something I'll just highlight right now, Tuesday, April 24th at 7 a.m. is our mother-son breakfast. Betsy Hunt and Ashley Cook are chairing that event. It's a wonderful, wonderful morning with your son. Put it on your calendar. But the day before, they'll have take-in for any clothing items, and they'll also have a sale that day and then the half-price sale after that. And now I've invited Nan Flynn, who keeps the trains running here at MBA, to come talk with us. We're going to have some changes this year in both our used book sale and in our purchasing of books that she's going to share with you. I'm going to get her slides up here for her. So you can hit that right there.
Okay, great. First of all, I just want to thank everybody in this room because for your support of our students and us, we just feel it every day, and the school could not run without the support of the moms. So I, for one, appreciate each and every one of you in this room. So just wanted you to know that. Your work is very much noticed and appreciated. Just wanted to let everybody know an official announce about this change of textbook company is going to go out after spring break, maybe the 1st of April. But just wanted to give you a sneak peek at this. Last year was my first year with MBA, and I just barely survived the whole textbook process. So I wanted to go through a first year and see, okay, what it's all about, what's involved, and then I just knew there had to be another better way to do this. So I started doing some research on some other companies and stumbled upon this one called eTech Campus. And they have support in schools across the country. BGA is the one local school that they are currently in. So I have interviewed all these schools across the country and spent a lot of time with the BGA gentleman out there who heads up their textbook process, and feel good about the choice that we've made here. Primarily, we were looking for a better value for the families. It's expensive to go to school here, and similar to the class rings, we switched vendors on that to give a just as high quality of a ring, but at a much lower cost. We wanted to do the same thing for textbooks and also provide better service for you. So we really feel confident that eTech Campus is going to deliver on all these fronts. They offer several purchasing options, which Follett, our previous textbook company, did not. So you will be able to purchase the books as normal, new, used, or a marketplace type book, similar to Amazon Marketplace. Or what they offer that's very different from Follett is a rental bundle. And what that means is if your student is in 7th and 8th grade, the rental bundle is a flat rate of $250, and they can rent as many books as their curriculum requires for that given year for $250. At the end of the year, they'll send you a prepaid return box with a label on it. You just ship it back. It's easy peasy. For the high school, the dollar amount for the rental is $450. Now, I know this process with a new company is probably not going to be perfect the first year, but let's just all say kumbaya and let's try to make this thing work. I feel really good about it. The customer service that we've already received has been mind-blowing. It's been phenomenal. So anyway, there may be some kinks that we work out and learn from this first year, but that's true with any change in life. The customer service, they actually have customer service. Follett did not have any customer service whatsoever. None. Absolutely none. There was no customer service department. I can't imagine a company with no customer service, but that was it. So this company does have a customer service department, and it will be available to me, other faculty members, and you as a parent, and even the students, but they're going to put that on you. So anyway, that's great. They offer free shipping. They're actually going to provide a MBA branded website for us, which is terrific. We were operating under a Mother's Club designed website from, I think, circa 1985, something like that, which was great back then, but the landscape has changed and we needed to get that updated. So it's going to be very much like shopping on Amazon. And I've tinkered with the BGA website, and it very much feels like an Amazon shopping experience. It's very familiar, very intuitive, should be very easy to use. This company also provides us a nice little budget for teacher materials and also financial aid assistance, which is great. Speaking of teacher materials, one of the irks that I had with Follett last year is I could not get teacher materials for actual teachers. However, when students would order the correct ISBN, or the parents rather would order the correct ISBN, Follett would ship them teacher editions with the answers in it. There's still 20 kids on this campus with a teacher's edition Spanish book that have not fessed up. So I hope they all get A's. And then this company also provides an easy buyback in May. The process is turnkey, easy, should be very easy to return. This is just another little promotional slide. You'll see this again whenever the primary announce goes out to all families, but this is just a preview. Any questions? Yeah.
Are they going to buy the books that we previous?
Yes. So we're going to do kind of a different sale this year in May, and Jenny and Deborah are going to be involved in it and still kind of lead it, if you will, as the used bookshelf chairs. But eTech Campus will be physically on campus in May, and once I get the discontinued list put together, we'll publish that to everybody, and then they will be on campus to assist with the buyback sale. So they will take all those followed purchase books back, which is great, and then we get a percentage of the sales back to NBA. So that's how that'll work. Yeah.
I know these book sales are pretty significant fundraiser for the Mothers Club. Do we anticipate this impacting the budget?
It will the first year. It will. So we're going to have to get creative in this room and come up with additional revenue streams. So this is very much beneficial to the families, more so on the front end and the back end. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details, but trust me, this is a positive move. So.
Thank you, Nan, so much for coming and sharing with us today. And I do want to reiterate that in May, you have an option to either receive a check of reimbursement for your book, or you can actually donate what you would get back to the Mothers Club. So this year we'll get a little bit bigger percentage back. So please bring any books that you've been hiding in any drawers this year. And then if you want to make that contribution to MBA as well, it will go back directly to the Mothers Club this year especially. So I really appreciate that. Let's see. Ashley Edwards, our wonderful president-elect, who I've just so enjoyed working with, is going to present to you our slate for 2018-19, which I think everybody will be really excited about. It's a little bit small to read.
Put your glasses on.
Or come up front, but we will make sure that in due time you get a copy of this when it's finalized.
So can they see it at all? Let's see. It's hard. I know. It's hard. I know. Did you want me to go ahead and read through it?
You do just whatever you.
Okay. All right. It is with so much joy that I stand up here this morning and present to y'all the 2018-2019 slate. We just have a remarkable body of mothers here at this school. They have mothers here that love their boys and love this community, and it just shows. I was just amazed, just the willingness and the talent and the commitment and the dedication of the mothers who said yes this year to opportunities and presented themselves and nominated themselves. So I want to present first the executive board, and I'll start with President-elect is going to be Susan Weathersby. And if you'll just raise your hand if you're here. Hi, Susan. Recording secretary is Kara Cruz. Hey, we all raise your hand high so we can see you. And communications coordinator for email is Deborah Wallace. Communications coordinator website newsletter is Kara Kolstad. Our treasurer will be Sarah Loving, and the treasurer-elect will be Belinda McSween. Our volunteer coordinator will be Tracy Crawford. Our class mother coordinator is Jennifer Hoffman, with her step-up being Natalie Carr. Our reports coordinator is Laura Green. And our community events is Stephanie Galanter. And our square coordinator is Jenny Freeland. So thank you all for stepping up and being on our executive board. And I can read through, I have so many names for this general board.
Why don't you leave it up
I'm gonna leave it up, and if y'all just take a look at it. I will. I won't take the time to do that this morning, but thank you all for being willing to support the NBA community through the Mothers Club. And one thing I wanted to do, Anna, this morning, I'd also like to thank you and recognize you for your service and commitment to NBA through your presidency as the president of the Mothers Club. And as tradition holds, the Mothers Club purchases a book for the NBA library in honor of the president of the Mothers Club. And this year, a novel, and the novel is The Last Ballad, and it was chosen for you, Anna, to be put in the library. And there's a placard in front of the book that says that. It's a very fitting that this book was chosen because it is a story about a courageous and hardworking mother in 1929. So you are welcome to take this book home with you and to read it before returning it to the library.
Thank you. I'm going on vacation with my daughter next week, so I'm going to enjoy reading that. Thank you to everybody. Lastly, I want to mention a couple of other events and then do some thank yous, and I'm going to get Jenny Maddox up here. I know you all are anxious to hear from her. So we will have a student art show reception Monday, April 16th at 5:00 p.m. I highly recommend you come. It's so fun to see the art that the boys have produced for the year. And the Mothers Club, Julie Brown, is spearheading a reception. And we moved it to this during the week at 5 o'clock, and it was so fun last year because the coaches really encourage all the boys to come. And this year we're going to have Zoe's roll-ups so that they have food after whatever sport they've played and are hungry. So really encourage them to come. And I want to go through some thank yous. Our junior school reps have just done a tremendous job this year with Grandparents' Day and then Admissions Interview Day. Stephanie Tatro, Ashley Levy, Edith Kirkland, and Laura Green, thank you so much. Our poinsettia sale in December, we had Mary Barton, Meg Haley, and Jennifer Caver. Another very successful poinsettia sale. I appreciate the holiday gifts. Carmen Turks, and we got lots of nice letters and emails, and I put a few of them up here from teachers thanking us for those cards. Decorating of the campus, Heather Kane and Elizabeth Dennis. Thanks to everyone that helped with our admission brunches. Lots of moms helped with that, and thanks to all of you. Our Valentine's fundraiser, Noelle Pinson, Michelle Evans, and Robin Bryan did an excellent job. Our NDOTA Art Night on the Hill, which will help fund that event, Susan Adams and Laura Sewell did an excellent job. It was so much fun. I really commend it to you next year. I cannot paint a stick figure, and I had a good time. So come. Faculty staff luncheon, Murray Smart, Megan Owen, and Mary Bettis. It was just lovely, and these are pictures from it, and I love they did these little quotes for the teachers on there. We were able to use the flowers from the chef's dinner, and they were able to get a really fun dessert from a new company, maybe Sugar Bella, and they did that. Anyway, it was just these are the pictures from that luncheon. So the faculty and staff really appreciated it, and Susan did a great lunch. Our chef's dinners in November, and we had a home run one in February. Rosemary McElhaney and Stephanie Gallanter and Paige Hill just did a phenomenal job. Our music recital and reception committee I've really appreciated them this year. Julie Spire and Deborah Byer, Angela Dean. They do those small concerts in the Dead Poets Society, which I also commend to you, and they have wonderful food afterwards to celebrate the boys. But we did the Pat Patrick's Sunday night, and it was like founder of the feast, the food that the moms brought, and the flowers. It was just gorgeous. And here's some pictures from the event this Sunday night. And it just made me so happy. And it was just a wonderful evening. Our theater team, Andrea Capizzi and Rachel McLeod and Trudy Mader, continue to do an excellent job. We've got a great flower team together now, and this is just 2 examples of what they've done recently. Elizabeth Hancock and Whiff Harmer. We've got now 6 or 7 other people helping. It's a great way to plug in. Our Sunshine Committee continues to just be awesome. It's a great place. If you know someone hurting in our community, they will follow up with them. It's really reassuring to have them. Lastly, I just want to thank my executive committee, which continues to just be a source of great ideas and encouragement and leadership at the school, and I really appreciate each and every one of them. In closing, I want to introduce our speaker here, Jenny Maddox. She is director of our college counseling at MBA, and she has a daughter who's in 6th grade at Harpeth Hall and a 7th grade son at MBA, Caden. We're so fortunate to have her. She has over 25 years of experience in college counseling. She's worked at the Webb School, Dickinson College, Shadyside Academy. She worked for many years at Harpeth Hall and has been at MBA for over 10 years. She's grown a tremendous network of in the high school and college arenas, which really is advantageous for our boys with her length of time in the field. She has been a leader in the International Boys School Coalition. She serves on many high school advisory boards and colleges, and she really does advocate for our boys, and we're really blessed to have her. She manages the whole college teams, and the thing I thought was really interesting that I want to highlight about her was when she was in college, she won an award awarded by her peers. The Hofstetter Senior Prize, awarded at graduation to the senior who, upon the judgment of the senior class, the faculty and administration has contributed the most to the college during his or her undergraduate career. And I think that pretty much sums up Jenny and what she contributes to our community here, and we're very thankful.
Thank you. I forgot about that award. Thank you. I'm going to hook up here because I actually have a different program, and I'm sorry about that. But so while I'm doing this, if anybody wants to stretch, because this has been a long meeting, please do so.
A cup of coffee or a cinnamon roll, we've got those back there.
Okay. I'm just trying to get us to this other device. There we go. Okay. Oops. Here we go. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for that introduction. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to actually represent the rest of my office because you all are blessed, whether you know it or not yet, to have an amazing group of people who really shepherd the boys through the college admissions process. I know that you all are coming from different grade levels. So we have, how many 7th grade parents here? Okay, great. 8th grade parents? 9th grade parents, 10th grade parents, and 11th grade parents. Oh, the 12th grade parents left. And that's okay, because they're in the other part of this process. But I guess what I would say as we start this process, when Anna and I talked about what I needed to talk to you about, Laura, thank you for staying. Laura, you stay as long as you want. I love to see, and if you're here, if you're senior parents, but you're also young, you have younger ones too, so thank you all for being here. What I hope that you will take away from this is what we can do to help the boys work their way through MBA, because our philosophy in our office is that our job is to help the boys become interesting people. And if you're an interesting person, then the college admissions process, while not easy, is a little bit more manageable. So I thought I would start out by starting about saying success. Because all of us come from different places, and all of us have different definitions of success. Therefore, the different fonts on my little screen here, because I was trying to be creative. So I thought it would be great if you just took a minute for yourself to think about what your definition of success is, because that's a really important part of any process that we do. So I'm going to be quiet for 1 minute and let you think about that. All right, you didn't come to think about this too much, but what I thought was really interesting as I thought about that is I kind of harkened back to my days and what did I think about success and how do I term success? And I thought back to when I was in high school, what do we all have? We had our books and, back in the day, that was before we had computers when I was young. And so we would make collages. And so we made collages for all of our friends. And this was one of our favorite quotes, or one of my favorite quotes, and Ralph Waldo Emerson's, "What is success?" I won't read it to you because you all can read yourselves. Can you all see it in the back? Because if you can't, then I would read it. Okay, but you all know this. And I think I say that because I think this has been my philosophy in terms of what is success. And I think it's really important that we think about, so often when people look at me, they're thinking about college admissions. And I do think about college admissions because I do want the boys to get into the places that they're going to be most successful. But I also realize that the college admissions process has changed so dramatically over the last 20 years while I have been a part of this field. And I realize that the reality of this is that there's so little things that we have control over in reality in this process. So what do? We help the boys with getting ready for this process. We're helping them to become interesting people. But the reality is, the philosophy of our office is that the boys have to feel good about the process and feel good about themselves. That is really our end goal. It's because then when they get to college, they will be successful there. And success is really what you do with where you are. It's not getting into one place. If you look at U.S. News and World Reports, I was actually talking to a colleague yesterday, and we were talking about U.S. News and World Reports. I said that that's really fake news. Because U.S. News and World Reports is really about incomes. It's really not about outcomes. And what I hope you want for your boys is a great outcome, and not for them just to get in, but for them to have a great experience, just like they will have at MBA, but to continue that in college. So, some of the things that Anna and I talked about, I took notes, and gosh, I could talk for about 4 hours about some of the things that we talked about. But these are some of the things that we kind of, she brainstormed, these are things that are on your mind, or the executive committee's mind, and things that you all would like to hear about. So I'm going to come back to this because I think this is some of the do's, but I think what she said that is really important for us to think about is what do we as mothers, what are we able to do? What can we take control over, and how can we influence our boys' experience here at MBA to make certain that it is as good as possible, and so, like I said, that we set them up for success in the college admissions process. So here are 10 things that I hope will help you, 10 things to be mindful of. And I have a 7th grader, as Anna said, so I'm very mindful of these things all the time. I don't check his grades very often, for better or worse. And I will tell a story on myself that one of my friends said to me around on the Labor Day weekend, "Hey, have you checked your son's grades?" And I said, "Heck no, I'm not checking his grades. He's responsible for that." And he said, "Well, my son is really not doing well." And then I got curious and I was like, oh shoot, I better look at this. And so I got on and realized that he was actually failing honors IPS. And I thought, oh shoot, for you all, you get this, that this is not a good thing. But I sit in the faculty meeting when they put all the names of the kids who are failing, and that would be horrifying for me. So I was like, oh shoot. And so I actually had a conversation with him about all of that. He had no idea what his grade was. He didn't know how to check his grades. So there's some things that I'm learning as a parent that I hope will help people who come along after me, because the reality is what I realize is that we need to make certain that 7th graders actually know how to check their grades. So I am very mindful that I am constantly learning new things all the time. So the first thing to be mindful of is to ask our boys good questions. And I'm seeing this with my 7th grader. He is getting more and more monosyllabic by the day. And so the reality of this is choose wisely. When you're in the car with them, think about things, but think about the questions that you ask. If you ask, did you have a good day? He'll go, If you instead say, tell me about one of the highlights of your day, he might have to think about something different. So those are the types of things I'm talking about. When they go to the fabulous mixers or the new service things that they're doing with their peers, I always like to ask, well, what did you do, and do you know why you did that? Because the reality of that is it's great to go and sort clothes with your friends, but to think about where are these things going? What is the greater importance of all of this is an important thing to think about. So asking those good questions. One of the things, let them figure it out. This is one of those things, like I said, my son almost failed honors IPS because I was letting him figure things out, which is a really good thing to think about because they need guidance. I'm not saying that you shouldn't be aware of what's happening, but it's really important for them to figure things out. The more that we can empower our boys, the better off they're going to be. I talk to college admissions people all the time. And one of the greatest concerns on college admissions offices is that the fact that kids can't do anything for themselves. When they get something, they go, well, wait, let me text my mom. And they say, you know, so that's what they're doing. If they get a bad grade, if they're sick, there's lots of different things that are happening. And so for you all to empower your boys as much as possible as they go through MBA and as they go through this with you here to help them is a really great thing. It's also really important to keep in mind that when they get there, they feel more confident if they know they've done it themselves. And this is a great place to fail at things that aren't as important. So, you know, the scheduling things are things that they all are figuring out. So helping them work through that, as, like I said, my husband last night sat down with my son to say, you have this due on Wednesday. Could we have heard about this earlier for that IPS? That IPS is gonna kill me. But that project that they're working on right now. So helping them to figure that out and making it a little bit painful for them sometimes, like my husband made that painful for my son last night, so he won't do that again. So the reality is helping them figure things out. Be a parent. This is one of the things that I think is so hard for us, but one of my favorite bosses once said to us, or said to a group of parents, you need to be a parent. And it was when I was at Harpeth Hall, and she said, if your daughter is not rolling her eyes at you at least once a day, you may need to re-examine the conversations that you're having with her. Because the reality is being a parent is hard. And so it's really important for us to be that person. Sometimes our boys need us to be the bad guy. They need us as an excuse. They need us as the reason to not do something, but they also need us to hold them accountable and not fix everything for them. So be that parent, be that person who, and I'm not saying you have to be mean all the time, but I think that it's really important that they have those guidelines and that we establish those for them. Watch your emotions. This is one thing that I am really working on because I think this is an important thing. That when I get frustrated with something, I see my kids go, oh no. And they go, oh, here it comes. And so I have to watch my emotions in terms of helping them figure out how to work through things. But this also goes through any disappointments, the highs and the lows. They love your joys, but your disappointments they feel. And one of the things that high school students we're talking about with high school students across the country and at MBA is the stress level that they feel. And some of that stress comes from us, whether we know it or not. They read us, they know us, they've known you all of their lives. So they know when you're happy, they know when you're disappointed, even if you're trying to mask that. So be aware of your emotions and as much as possible, keep that in mind as you're having those conversations with them because they read that and they read your disappointment. And if you're disappointed in them, they're more disappointed in themselves, whether they say that or not. And so that's one of the things that is a really important thing to keep in mind. My son, I'll use him as an example probably for the rest of his life, but he tried out for the baseball team. And I said, I was scared to death, because what have I heard about all my working life here at MBA? People don't make teams. And so I was like, okay, this is something I have to set him up and make certain that he's ready for not making the team. So I said to him, Bud, what are we thinking about? How are you thinking? And he said, Mom, don't worry about it. I'll make one of the teams. And I'm thinking, really? And he said, yeah. He said, I'll make the A, B, or the C team. And I said, Bud, you know there's no C team. And he said, yeah, that's the cut team. He said, I'll be okay. And so I was like, darn, you're so good. He was already prepared, but that conversation helped me to know that he was okay with that. And so that I needed to adjust my husband's expectations so that we could check our own emotions. So that's what I would say about there. There again, check your reactions. That goes with the same thing, making certain that you're thinking about how you're reacting and that you're not projecting what you're feeling onto him, which is what we were ready to do right there. And then being realistic. This is one of those things that I think is a really important thing for all of us. To know your child, know what their strengths are, know what their weaknesses are. I think my poor children, I've been in college admissions for so long, I keep telling them, you're so normal. You're so normal. Just know, you're just really normal. Which maybe they will need a lot of therapy probably later on in their lives. But the reality is, I recognize what they do well, but I also recognize where they need help. And I think that's where being a parent is really important because, this is a generation, and you all know it, they get a prize for participating in what they do. And they've had that for a long time. So making certain that we're setting realistic, understanding who they are, but really setting realistic goals for them, that they're not going to win at everything is something that's important. Then believe in them. You all do this. You're here. You wouldn't be here if you didn't believe in your sons. But let's make certain that they know that, and make certain that they know that whenever you can. Celebrate their victories, but also make certain, when they're disappointed, boys tend to keep that in a little bit, so make certain that you have those conversations with them as well, but not in a way that projects what you're thinking. Ask them those really good questions. And then help them understand the world. This is what I was talking about. A lot of our guys are really good. Boys are really good at doing. They will go and they will do a lot of things. And then they tick off that box and they move on to the next thing. But it's our job as parents to help them get an understanding of the greater world. So when my son goes, and he goes with me, to the soup kitchen, and I do this with my advisees, so I hope that I'm doing it for your sons as well as my own, but if they go to something, they come back and I say, well, how many people did you serve? And they'll say, oh, I don't know. And so then they have to think about that. And I'll say, is that a larger number or a smaller number than usual? Did you have any conversations with those people? Do you understand what the greater issues are? Why were those people there? So helping them to think about those issues around food and why does the soup kitchen exist? That's a really important thing for our guys to get. That's also really important for anything that they do. If they go on a Wilson grant, what are your takeaways? What is it that you learned from that experience? It could be a class. It could be anything that you're doing. Helping them to have a broader perspective of the world is a really important thing. And if you look at the college admissions world, that's really what they're looking for. They're looking for people who understand themselves, but also understand the greater picture of the world. What is out there? So that if you live, MBA is a wonderful place, but it's a bit of a bubble. And so they need to have that larger perspective to understand what else is out there. And how can they use their strengths and talents to make our world a better place? That's one of those big things to think about. Encouraging them to try new things. This is another thing that's hard, but MBA is rich in opportunities, and so encouraging them to step outside of their comfort zone is an incredibly important thing. A lot of our guys will go, well, I'll go if I can go with a friend. And I understand that. I totally and completely understand that. But sometimes going without a friend is actually going to be the best thing that they can do, and so making them be a little uncomfortable. Sometimes you need to make them comfortable. I will use my 7th grade son. I had a bunch of boys over before the mixer because none of them were happy about going. They were much happier going together, but as he does other things, I want him to be less comfortable and to figure that stuff out. And my last thing is for you to know things will all work out. In my experience, I'm going to knock on wood because we have a senior student still waiting, we've never had a boy not go to college. And so the reality of this is that they will go to college and they will be okay. And that's an important thing for all of us to remember, because if we go back to our emotions, that we tend to, I worked at Harpeth Hall for a long time, for 6 years, as Anna said, and in that environment, I realized that I was constantly trying to lower the emotional level of things because everything was up here. And we're women, that's kind of sometimes where we go with things. So make certain that you understand that it will all work out. And that's one of the most important things that you can keep in mind. So, okay. I'm not gonna do this, but I'm gonna send this to you later as a link because I'm very mindful of your time. And this is kind of the whole thing about how things work out. Sometimes people look at where their son goes to college as the kind of like the pinnacle of this is it, this is the success. But if you go, and I'll send this presentation out to put it on the Mothers Club website, but you can go to this site and look at Harvard's incoming class this fall. And you'll see there are 158 schools represented in their class, or something like that, 185 numbers. I sometimes get those confused. But there's an incredible diversity of students who are admitted to Harvard Law. And so the reality of this is what I want you to know is that the most important thing in this process is that your boy learns to understand who he is so that he can go through this process and find a place where he will be successful so that his life outcomes moving forward continue to be successful. And that's what I would say about all of that. That's kind of that definition of success that we have to think about. So some of these things, like I said, I'm going to touch on these, and then I'm going to open it up in case there are some questions. And I actually have a handout, which now that a bunch of people have left, the good news is I probably will have enough. But I'll also put that on there too. But some of these things are, what does being realistic mean? I think that means understanding your child and understanding the environment in which he is located. We had a sophomore who we did small group meetings with our sophomores, and one of the sophomores said, when my father went to MBA, anybody could go to Vanderbilt. If you went to MBA, you could get into Vanderbilt. And I said, yeah, that probably happened back in the day. But the world is different. And I actually said, and I bet when your father was here, they didn't have computers. So keep in mind that the world has changed. Be realistic, educate yourself. Remember, there is a lot of fake news out there, but there's also a lot of really good resources out there. Some of this is, are we already behind? I hear this so often from moms and dads because I think you always feel like everybody else is doing so much more than you are. Our process at MBA is very systematic. When we work with the boys, we take them wherever they are and we give them information a little bit at a time. I like to say that boys right now, wherever they are, even some of our seniors, are thinking about what they're going to do on Friday night and Saturday. And they're thinking about that next thing, but they're still engaged. They're amazing about living in the present. And we have to honor that, and we try to honor that in our process by giving them information in bits and pieces so that they get information as they need it. So we go to their class meetings and we'll say, oh, you have the PSAT coming up, sophomores. Something to pay attention to. Just know you can access e-prep. You can look at your scores from last year. We remind them about those things in a time where it's close enough that they can wrap their mind around it. If we talk to the sophomore, the freshman, or anybody about college admissions, they will go blank and they will just go, oh, that's not important. I don't need to know about that now. That will happen. So our philosophy is always to kind of keep them in the moment and focus on where they are. What is the right balance? I think this is a question that we get a lot. The right balance and I think becoming an interesting person is what I would go to. If your son is so stressed out that he can't enjoy his experiences, then the balance is a little bit off. So help your son think about those things. Summer vacations, that's part of the balance too. If he really wants to do something, sometimes you can add some of those things to the summer where he has a little bit more time and he's not pressed with other things. Remember that we have Wilson grants and those are amazing opportunities, but it's also great for your guys to have jobs. Colleges and universities actually like kids who work because they get a sense of what the world is like, what it is like to earn money. Sometimes, we've had some boys who've written fabulous essays about working at pizza shops and how they've learned about people and what they've learned about the world. So having a job is actually a great thing for a lot of people. And then how can parents create a story? The reality is that college admissions, like I said, it's about becoming an interesting person and how do you communicate how interesting you are. So I think that we have to help our boys think about what it is that they're taking away from things, what they're interested in, and how we can help them explore their interests, how we help them plug in here. Make certain that you're taking advantage of the people here at MBA who are interested in helping your boys. Partner with us. Let us know. Ask us good questions as well so that we can help you help him. That community service, one of the things that I always say about community service is people think that is a requirement for college admissions. Community service is actually not a requirement for college admissions, but it is important to do community service because it does give you perspective. And that's why colleges and universities value community service. It's not the number of hours that you do, it's the meaning behind the service that you do that is most important. When to start? The reality is you're at MBA, so your boys are already started. And so that's one of those things to think about. I always say that if you have underclassmen, and you are driving someplace, one of my dear friends in an admissions office says, if you're driving someplace and you need a pit stop and you see one of those blue signs that says Vanderbilt University, not a great example, but pull off. They always have clean bathrooms. They'll always welcome you, and you can maybe walk around a campus or drive around a campus. It's a great way to look at some different places. And for those of you who are germophobic, like I said, really clean bathrooms and nice people. So that's something to think about. But no, like I said, we will work with your boys. I actually have these handouts about what we do with the boys in high school. I will say for everybody, we do some programs in May that are designed for 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade students and parents. Normally we have parents come and the students are saying, I'll think about that later, and that's totally fine. But we have deans from highly selective admissions offices come to talk about the admissions process, and that is on May 8th. I think it's a Tuesday, so if that's May 8th is a Tuesday, that's the day that will happen. And that's just to help you learn about the process and you learn about selective college admissions so that you can help your son. And how will MBA help? Here's some things I think that are really important to think about. We are here to help, but we can't help you if you don't let us know how you need help. So one of the things I would say to you is make certain that you are partnering with us. First point of contact for you anytime you have something with your son is the advisor. You all know that. Those are people who see your boy every day and know them and hopefully can help you manage this process. If that advisor says, gosh, I don't know how to help you, reach out to somebody else. I meet with lots of families, and so I'm happy to help you figure things out. I have a lot of informal advisees, as I call them, the boys who come in who need a little bit more guidance, and so we say, okay, let's figure this out. And so they get to come in and we have conversations about who they are, and I help them figure out what it is that they may want to plug into. So figure out for yourself and for your sons what is it that you need, and make certain you let us know because we are here to help. Read the weekly newsletter. One of the things I think that I actually have a suggestion for us moving forward as a school. We have college counseling is our own little category, and so sometimes people miss it because they go to the high school and they don't click on that other little button there. And so we put a lot of information there. We try to not overwhelm you with a lot of emails because you get so many and you don't need a ton more. So what we do is every week we put information on there. When there's something really special, we will send you an email, and that's something that's important. Our senior parents, our junior and senior parents get a lot more email from us than other parents, but we're about to send out an email to the sophomore parents to let them know what we just did with the sophomores in the small group meetings that we had with them. So we are trying to get more information out to you all so that you know what we're doing, so that A, you can ask us good questions, but that you can also ask your sons good questions, so that you know what we're doing, so that that's all part of it. And then the last thing, talking with other MBA parents is an incredible resource. The Mothers Club is one of those places where I'm always amazed at how much information people get through this resource. But I also say, keep in mind that everybody has their own story, and so keep in mind that just because something worked for somebody else doesn't mean it will work for your son. So use this network as a way to get information, but make certain they're getting information from multiple sources. It's that whole fake news thing that we're all trying to work our way around and think about what is real news and how do you get good news. So making certain that you're getting good news and asking different sources. In my office, there are 5 of us. Some of us are full-time and some of us are part-time. I am full-time. I try to do a very good job of answering emails within 24 hours. So if you have a question, I really try to get back to people very, very quickly. So I am probably the first point of contact for a lot of people. If you have a general question, Kathy Moon is our office manager, and she's a great resource for you all as well. But know that college admissions is changing. And so by the time our 7th graders go through this process, I will have learned a ton about the process because we're continually learning. But I think the important thing is that what are we trying to do? We're trying to set our boys up for success. And we are trying to help them become interesting people, because that's not just going to help them in the college admissions process, that's going to help them in life. And when I meet people, I will say the last thing is, when I meet people and they say, oh, what do you do? And I say, I work at MBA. And they'll say, oh, well, what do you do? Or what do you teach? That's what they always say. No, what do you teach? And I say, I teach life skills. In college counseling, that's really what we're about. We're really trying to help the boys figure out who they are, how to articulate that, how to talk about their experiences, how do they view the world, and how do they communicate that with other people. Our speaker for senior college night was from Northwestern University, and they have like all these schools, 8% acceptance rate, stupid. But he came, and what he said is that there are a lot of smart people in the world. But to be smart and interesting is really what it is all about, at least in their admissions process, but I think that's true in life. There are a lot of smart people. Doesn't mean that they're interesting. So we need to help our boys become interesting, and that's our goal. I'm going to hand these out because this is a little bit about our programming. And this is on our website, but we'll also put this on the Mothers Club website because I think if you think of what we've tried to do at MBA, and like I said, this is my 10th year here, I like to tell people, I did work at Harpeth Hall, but I left town before I came over. So I didn't abandon them and anyway. But we have tried to create a very boy-centric process here. An individualized process, but also a process that reflects what we know about boys and what we believe to be true about boys. This is an amazing community, and these guys really do a lot of work every day. And so what we're trying to do in our process is make certain that we're supporting them and giving them information, like I said, in those bits and pieces when they can receive it, so that they can use that information to move through this experience and get out the other side. So does anybody have questions? Yes, ma'am.
I remember in high school having a job board, and I know that when you're in information, you're in a digital age, but it's kind of hard to decide, as a parent community, it would be neat if we had something here that parents who are lawyers, parents who are doctors, parents who have landscape companies, if they could post jobs that are available just for our boys in this community, because I remember working for my dad's community law firm because they paid $5 an hour for me to do time slips versus the 14. So I don't know. That's great. There's not something here that the boys know. I mean, I know they can work for the off course. I know friends have friends who ask for them, but if we need it as a community, we have a place to post job opportunities, and boys have a place to actually go on their own and decide, hey, can I get a job? That's a great idea.
I'll talk to Jody Johnson because that's an alumni, friends of the school kind of thing. So absolutely, I think if you didn't hear, it's an idea to post job opportunities for the summer on a MBA-specific website, so that if you, as either an alum or a friend of MBA, have a position available that a high school student could fill or help you with, then our boys could go there and look at those possibilities. I think that's a great idea. Yeah, the boys don't do bulletin boards. We'll put it electronically. I think that would be a better thing to do. So, but I love that idea. I think it's a great idea. Anything else that you all have questions about? I know this has been a long meeting. Yes, ma'am.
Get your website on both, scores, and then, or is it having after?
Yeah, that's a great question. Should you come and visit with contacting before or after you do your first sets of visits? And I think that's going to depend. Obviously, if you're stopping by for a potty break, then you're not going to come and see us. But if you're actually doing some official tours and you want to actually go and see some different places, we are happy to talk with you. What I normally recommend for your first visits, if you're going with your freshman or sophomore, is to do a swath. Don't go to specific places, but to go to different places. And then after you visit, have your son write a list of pros and cons. What did he like about that school? What didn't he like about that school? Because then the job is really helping him discern and define what it is that he likes about a place. And he may not like a school, but there may be characteristics about it that he will like. So we're happy if you say, we'd love to go on a trip, we can give you some places to think about. And then we love to process information after somebody has gone to visit as well. So absolutely, we're here to help you with that. Does that help? Yes. Okay. Anything else? I know we are over time, so I'm going to let you all go. Do you have anything else, Anna?
No, that's excellent. I think that gives everybody just some food for thought as you're navigating these waters, which you're always trying to balance the pressure of helping them have the best opportunities, but also just helping them be a person that can go to college and flourish because they know how to advocate for themselves, because they know how to make their own decisions.